you say, no, I'm just doing my improv workshops here. And they had never met a guy like me. A guy that coming from Mexico, there was an American, but I had this aura about me from the magic mushrooms, this curandero type of character who's like way off. I mean, a different kind of.
Well, you almost sound like a hippie.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
one of
very
my,
hippie-esque.
oh, no, yes, I mean, one of my best characters. See, we didn't repeat any characters. Well, ours was totally new every single time. We never repeated scenes or characters. But one of the ones that I would have was I came out and I had two H's on my chest, and I was Happy Head. Happy Head. And Happy Head, I had some $15 baggies of clean air from Big Bear. Clean air from Big Bear. So, so it was, I mean, that was like, you just go on and on with that kind of stuff. And it's like, anyway.
So you met your wife the
So yeah,
second day.
he took me over there. I met her. Then there was a guy. She had a kind of a friend, boyfriend, and then she came. I had a place to stay for 6 weeks with Yippee, and then they left town, and so I was homeless. But my first week, I got into the improvisational workshop, the Synergy Trust. It became the Synergy Trust, the offshoot of the committee, and the Mexican American Theater Workshop where Richard Inigas was running. And so I got to meet Richard Inigas and Improv. So I was at those two theaters during the day, and I would clean up there, and I would hang out with the homeless, with a quadriplegic on Hollywood and Vine at night, and just talk about his take on stuff, but so 6 months later, I saw her a few times in that first 6 weeks. She came with a friend to see my improv group, and she invited me home for a drink, and I never left. And now, 54 years later, we've only been apart 22 days. 22 days. She's with me on every location, even if I have to go in, I don't drive into LA and stay overnight unless she's with me at the hotel, and she'll just stay at the hotel. She doesn't like to go out all that much and because she's got to stand around while I'm hobnobbing with everybody because I love to mingle.
You're a social person.
Yes.
And she was a clothing designer, right? She
She worked
designed
yeah,
leather
she
stuff.
designed leather for Elvis and Margaret and stuff, and I learned how to do a little bit to help, but then I went off to do one of my first movies, Red Sky and Morning, and I was gone for the first 5 days that I was gone, and she went to the company. They left her in charge of the company, and she turned in the key and said, "Get somebody else to run this because I'm going." She wasn't going to leave me alone
Oh,
because she knew better. Because we somos perros. I mean, men are dogs. I mean,
things happen.
you're out there
Things happen.
and you have per diem money. You're buying people drinks, and it's like, oh, but she's there with me. We would go anywhere we would go. We're gonna be there 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. She goes and buys, you know, uh, paper flowers and decorates every room like our house is.
Oh,
And she created me as an artist. That's my African sunset behind me.
oh man. First of all, I love your art. We're going to talk about that
Yeah, yeah.
in a minute, but I love your art. I love the colorfulness of it. I love the happiness. Again, your joy comes out in your work.
Yeah,
It comes out in your art. I'm sure it comes out in your garden as well.
it does, and it's like going back to her. Is that she's a Scorpio and a snake, so she knows exactly what she wants. She says what's on her mind. Not so much sometimes. It's like, uh, I wouldn't go into stores where I wasn't going to buy something. That Chicano kind of humility thing. And she's like, "What do you mean? you know, what do you mean you stay gonna stand outside? You know, but but just the strength that she has, and it's been great because in improv it's called the yes and adjustment, which is yes and is positive positive, but yes but is positive negative. So if she says, Pepe, let's go to the store, I said, yeah, but I just got to finish this up. Then, okay, then, but okay, let's go, and just drop it. Then I'm not being a martyr about it. I'm not going to say, oh man, you're really a good guy doing that for her. No, because when you do that and practice that, that's food. That's your food for thought, food for your emotional, how the blood system works, how the emotions work, and how uh, that when you don't get, so when I didn't get a great part was the same. I tried to make it the same as when I did get that great part, so that I was never on that. I was never on that roller coaster. I try to keep my roller coaster right at an even keel. So I never got. I got a series, and the secretary was like, "Well, aren't you happy?" I said, "Yeah." Well, why aren't you screaming? I said, "I don't know. Uh, I wasn't. It's not. Working with those big stars right off. I mean, Gregory Peck. 8 years after he won the Oscar for To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm at his house, and he wants a jacket, like, and just the kindest man. It's just like,
Who who are a couple of high profile actors that you worked with that gave you something that you use today, like technique, or you watched them and you took a little piece of what you saw them doing?
the most interesting one was obviously Eddie Olmos. That was my best friend, and I got into Zoot Suit, and he was a glorified extra the day I met him, and he tells me I'm going to be the guy who kills him in the movie he's going to direct, and how an extra that he had been with Floyd Mutrix on Aloha, Bobby and Rose. How did this guy get a script from a writer director? How did That's Eddie. I mean, Eddie, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a phenomenal
unstoppable.
guy. I was, so we went to the first days of rehearsal of Zoot Suit, and then he took off like a rocket ship, and he didn't leave me behind, because I wasn't, I wasn't in the same solar system as him anymore. His trip was his trip. We're all totally different, so we're not in competition. But it was
Yes,
watching
but your
those.
generosity as a friend,
Yeah,
you invested into that friendship, because I've heard him say how you would call him on parts that you went up for and say, hey, there's a part, you should go up. So you also were a really supportive friend, in that you didn't feel the competition.
no, and which is very important because success, man, you lose a lot of friends that you can't call your friend and say, I just booked a series, man. Oh, you did? Because the, because it's not that it's such a competitive. Uh, uh, it is a competitive business, but it's like we're all different.